Welcome to the Knilly and PB podcast. This is a weekly series where we're rereading Twilight because Knilly's never read it and PB wants to send memes. I'm Knilly.
I'm PB.
And we're here to talk about chapters 18 through 21. Things are heating up very quickly. It was very slow. Not slow. It was like paced at, a lot of characterization and a lot of establishing stuff. And now there's stuff happening. Stuff is happening. Chapters are 3 pages.
Look, we are like in the deep end now.
Yeah.
They got us to care about the characters and now they've put them in danger.
Yep. So that being said, the next episode will be the penultimate episode. And for those that are watching on YouTube, you can find the link to the Discord in the description where we're going to talk about essentially planning for a Twilight 1 movie watch along. So keep on the lookout for that. Otherwise, we are doing the rest of the books. We're doing the whole series, gang, as a heads up. I know we have 2 more episodes, but I just want to get you all prepared so you can dig up your books from storage. All right? Things are heating up and we're not going to let this train stop, Or I guess we're not going to let this, we're going to keep piggybacking on the vampire's back.
All right. Yep. No. We're continuing on with that one. Go for it.
I mean, we're jumping into the red Jeep. We're jumping into the tinted Mercedes.
I was going to make a joke, but it won't make sense until we watch the movies.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not a line in the book. It's only in the movies.
Oh, we're switching pants with Esme. I don't know.
Switching with Esme? Jesus.
All right. So with that, I kind of just summarized everything that happened in the last few chapters. See you next week.
I'm sorry you forgot about carrying the football.
Oh, yes. Carrying the football. Yep. And ballet,
And ballet. Which was established earlier in the book. Yep. We did, in fact, talk about ballet.
And how bad at anything that requires physical exertion that Bella is at. That was really backwards and Yoda of me. She's bad at doing physical activities.
She's very clumsy, although never are those words muttered. We always have to describe it somehow, some way else. Yeah.
So chapter 18, we're going to get right into it. We last left off in the previous chapter, the other vampires that Alice had seen were actually a lot closer. Vampires in visions are closer than they appear. And they ended up, I am brain farting on their last name. What is the vampire family's last? The Cullens. Oh my God. Why am I brain farting like that? The Cullens are on edge as they approach. And in this chapter, we meet Laurent, James, and Victoria. They're kind of chill, they're like backpackers, no shoes. They're the roaming vampires that just had dinner in Seattle, actually. Just outside of Seattle, sorry. And essentially they're kind of curious. Carlisle, the gentleman he is, invites them over to chat, but does also mention like, hey, this is our turf. Please don't, hunt in this immediate area. And then which prompted them to say, oh no, we ate already. Thank you though. And the thing is, they smell Bella because she's a human. And James likes that. But didn't like it at first, but then Edward got really testy and it kind of just set James off in theory. We learned more so his psyche in the later chapters, but essentially Edward has read his mind. James is going to hunt her. They all kind of send messages or get the vibe from each other and are setting up to get Bella the hell out of Forks. I think this is a chapter where I don't have too many notes this time around. But my first note was nothing like the playful sounds because Edward growls, but it's more animalistic, feral, mean. And Bella is like, oh, Jesus, he is very scary. I'm like, no shit. But also, would you call those growls playful?
Well, I guess if you're like playful in the way that you like, I guess you imagine like a puppy growling.
Sure.
When they're just like being playful of like, the first times they do it. And then now this one's like a full grown German Shepherd growling at a mean person. Yeah. I think it's that sort of like
that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
German Shepherd or lion, as we continue to pull the imagery. I mean, I get it. Like, it's a right. I'm going to point it out every time, but I understand that it is a writing mechanic in order to continue imagery and, like, you know, solidify. Like, I get it. It's just fun to point out because it's not like described any differently. That is lion-like. It's always like a lion. Just like a lion.
Just so you remember, it's like a lion.
Just like a lion. I think while I'm talking about this like analogy, it's Bella is obviously like scared stiff, and I wrote as my notes, deer in headlights, or in this case, a sheep in headlights. But yeah, it's a lot of establishing that like these three are dangerous, very dangerous. But yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to point out on?
Yeah, there's a few things, but is that very much different than literally the entirety of the rest of the book, where Edward has attempted again and again to try and establish to Bella that he and vampires are dangerous? I mean, and she was just like,
no, you're not.
I don't care.
No, and that's the thing. I think, see, this is mixed because I love that it takes actual real. I mean, it's not to say that Edward isn't dangerous, right? But he wasn't going to hurt her because he loves her, right? At least he hopes he's not going to hurt her based on, like, he's trying his best, right? Like, he's not looking to do that unless, like, the temptation becomes that strong, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, he's not, like, in this scenario, he's not going to be dangerous to her in particular, right? It takes an actual real threat to scare Bella. I hate that it has to come to that, but damn, girl, you should have actually been scared earlier when he told you so.
Yeah, it's like, because in Bella's opinion, Edward has never been dangerous.
Yeah.
However, Edward has absolutely been dangerous.
Yes.
It is a pure miracle he has not murdered Bella. And because it is... he's even said jokes in this chapter that she smells appallingly luscious.
Yes.
And so yeah, I mean, that's the important thing to remember also, right? This entire book is written from Bella's perspective.
Yeah.
Although, except, you know, Midnight Sun does exist, and that's written in Edward's perspective.
But however,
yeah. So yeah, it did definitely take until this to happen. There are a couple of things I do want to talk about in this one. Is first, this is the first vampires we meet outside of the Colons.
Yeah.
And it's the first vampires we meet in this universe that drink blood.
Yeah. And are not like stationary. Like
because they can't be, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, people get suspicious after a while when a new family comes in and suddenly a bunch of people die.
Yup. Or go missing. Wow. Strange. Definitely not those new people.
They even joke about it in this chapter and probably the next one, that it's not the first time that this has happened when they talk about moving and getting, you know, changing up everything. But these vampires, we do get some established lore where these vampires, the ones that drink people blood, have deep burgundy colored eyes. Mm-hmm. So their eyes do turn more of a blood red, some might say, if they are people drinkers. So if they are not vegetarian,
Omnivores, if you will. Maybe even carnivores.
And so, so we learned that. We learned that James is a tracker. Specifically, that's the wording they use.
Yeah.
Which I guess also establishes that there are other vampires out there that are also trackers.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And also, I absolutely adore Emmett. Emmett is one of my favorite characters in the Twilight series.
We got him. We got him. We can handle it. We got him.
It's like my favorite part of this is when I think it actually might be the next chapter, but whenever Emmett's like, "Wow, no, she's right," and Bella's like, "That's insulting. That's definitely insulting that he sounds so surprised about that." And I'm like, damn, poor Emmett. He's been longer than you have. He's been to school longer than you have. But yeah, Emmett's my favorite, although most of my characterization that I like about him comes from outside of the Twilight series. Probably, I don't know. I was telling Knilly earlier, I don't remember much about Emmett or Jasper aside from moments here and there. Enough to know about their character, but not enough to know anything specific about them. Like for me, Emmett, I think strong himbo bears. Yeah. Those are the things that I think of when I think of and Rosalie, when I think of Emmett. And when I think of Jasper, I think pained, Confederate, and Alice. Those are the three things I think about Jasper. So I'm just that's all that's established from them, I think. So I was surprised to see so much Emmett of talking and Jasper talking, because in my mind Jasper always stays away from Bella, because again Jasper is the youngest of the vampires, so he is still trying to get a good old grasp on that thirst, and he's the one that's finding the hardest, which is why funnily enough later on we also get a scene where it's just Jasper and Bella, and Jasper is an entry hallway away from Bella just in case. I'm just like, Jasper, please. You'll be fine.
Just in case.
Let's see. Oh, and other things was, Bella, if you let anything happen to yourself, anything at all, I'm holding you personally responsible. Do you understand that?
What a good
Edward
quote.
said. And I'm just like, you know what, Edward, I'll give you that one. That's a surprisingly reasonable thing to ask of Bella. Yeah. As we will see later. Yep. And then also the foreshadowing quote of, but keep your opinions to yourself, to Alice about Bella. Because that is a quote that foreshadows Alice talking to Bella about vampires in the last chapter. I
think it is the second to last chapter that we read. So chapter 20 instead of 21.
Yeah. And aside from that, that's all I really have from that one.
The only other thing that I have, because like Bella, and I understand where Bella's coming from. She's like, don't do this just for me. You're going to uproot your whole family nonsense. And this is where they talk about, like, we've done it before. It's not a big deal. We don't find out exactly why they're doing this. They're going so hard on this, but we do find out I forget if it's 19 or 20, but we find out later that they are going all in on it. Well, most of them are going all in on this. I think Rosalie is just doing it because Carlisle told her to, but most of the others are going in on it because they have yet to see Edward this happy. I wish I actually highlighted it, but like Alice has a quote. It's like, I grew up with him for a century, not seeing him like this. And do you think I'm going to wait another century to see him like it again? Like, that's actually a really nice, like, wow, look at that family, those family bonds. Those are great. Those are good.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I think Alice is my favorite so far. Alice is very good. So I hope that she gets more stuff aside from she has a huge key part, even though it ended up being for naught, but like a huge key part in the upcoming chapters. But before we move on to those other chapters, one other thing I wanted to point out with returning back to like how Bella's feeling guilty and all that stuff, she's trying to take a stand in like a verbal spat on like what the plan should be. And Bella's, I forget what the full quote was, but then like it says like, I said this and then shrunk to a soft please at the end. And I was like, oh my God, you were doing so good. You should have just not said that. You held your ground, Bella. I understand they're very scary vampires, but they all like you enough especially like because you're part of this family right now, because that's what Carlisle said earlier in the chapter.
But like that's the emotionally manipulative please, though. So I would say that that's almost a stronger play than just keeping your ground, because no one's ever going to listen to you if you come at them yelling. But if you come at them from an emotional angle, especially someone like Edward, might be more susceptible to listening to you from a tone change like that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't read it that way, because it just kind of sounds like a added on please, and not like we got more descriptors when it was like a manipulative please, or like a manipulative take.
Well, it's not purposely manipulative. It's just a manipulative move, right?
I don't know. I just read it that she was backing off because she is also like a human, and like doesn't understand like her own like self-preservation or her own strength. So that's the way I read it. But like it either way, it's just kind of like, okay. But
well, she doesn't have any strength in this. In any, like, and I don't know exactly which argument you're talking about. Is it when they're in the car together and talking about what they're going to do?
I think it's like they just buckled up in the car. They didn't start driving off yet. But they didn't, it was like right after. I forget which page it's on. But like, it's just in the beginning, and then they keep coming up with plans, Eventually, Bella gets her sort of way, because Alice and Jasper are like, she's right. And Edward's just being a man and stubborn at that point. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, her plan, like, I do like Bella comes up with a good plan. And I think that's where her strength is, because she knows Charlie best. And she knows how to like manipulate that relationship so that she can get away with it without trying to put like Edward's reputation in jeopardy, because she still would like to talk to her dad, right? We find out like she's just going to do this to get away and keep a distance. So I don't think that Bella doesn't have cards to play or isn't strong here, but I wish she stood her ground more, is all I'm saying.
I mean, but like she's 17, she's 16, 17. What do you expect?
No, but like I think this is partially like a writing thing. Like I think it would have been good to showcase, it doesn't matter your age, if you have something to say and have an opinion, like stand your ground, right? Like that's not, I think
but
that
she doesn't have ground, I think, is the issue here. Like
no, but she has an idea. Like, and Edward's just shooting it down. Like I think that sucks. From like, if I would be so mad. Like it kind of like, I read that, I'm like, geez, that's why I wrote it down, because like it made, and I like, of all the things in the stuff I read, this like made me feel like the most like, Bella, you have good ideas. Like, don't, like, this is also like a confidence thing, and that's something to be said for like the characterization of Bella, and an attempt to be like either the reader or a strong character. But I think, I think that please does a disservice to her.
But please isn't weak though.
No, it's not. It's just as she says, I said please in a smaller voice.
I did find where you're talking about it.
Okay.
I did find the exact moment. It says, he had just said the plan. Everyone's like, I agree. And being like, Edward, let's do this. And then Bella says, I demand that you take me home. I tried to sound firm. Edward pressed his fingers to his temples and squeezed his eyes shut. And then, please, I said with a much smaller voice. He didn't look up when he spoke, but his voice sounded worn. And then it's like, yeah, you're leaving tonight, blah, 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 with the rest of the plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't find that please very unreasonable in a much smaller voice.
Yeah. I mean, that's just like I think that one is like one of those, like, however you want to interpret it. I think, I mean, I guess I was like misconstruing when she had other plans, because they had like 5 different plans in the car, trying to figure out what they were going to do and what Bella wanted to do versus what they thought they should do. So like that, I might have been misconstruing like her plan versus like, I want to go home. But I don't know. I think it's just like the juxtaposition of demanded and becoming smaller. but that's pretty much about it. Honestly, it does change like later. Like she is very much helpless the rest of this until the phone call in chapter 21 where she has to do something about it, which we'll get to when we get to that chapter.
Yeah, it's like the thing that so the entire ending of this book is very memorable to me. Because again, I have read this book. I read it when I was a teenager many, many years ago. And a couple of things from the Twilight series stand out like very clearly to me. Not the entire books. I don't remember everything about it. It's been a very long time, but I do remember certain things. And the thing that I remember about reading this the first time is that I had to slow down reading it because I was starting to do the thing where you like start speed reading because you want to find out what's happening, what's next. And this time when I read it, I very deliberately wanted to read it more calmly and slowly, especially since I already know what's going to happen. I don't have that same sort of like, what's happening? What are we doing? Like, what are the plans happening right now? Because how this is written, it's written very much like off balance.
Yeah.
Right. Like never do you feel like, because again, this book is written from Bella's perspective. You never really feel like you have both feet on the ground firmly. You always feel like you're being carried around everywhere as she
quite
is
literally.
The
Yeah.
rest of this, in the rest of
yeah,
this.
like that one image of like she was literally like this with the two other vampires. I forget who it was. Like carrying her by the shoulders down the stairs. She's like in Esme's like oversized clothes for her, and it's just a very funny image. Like I think to Stephenie Meyer's credit here, she does like some very good writing in that sense, because like yeah, it's panic mode, it's chaos, it's like we don't know what we're doing, but we gotta do something. But there's so many pieces in play, especially because like, and since we're going into this, we might as well get into it. Like we find out from Charlie when so Bella busts into the door at home to try and get convince Charlie that like they've broken up and that she's gonna go back home, like home to Phoenix quite immediately. But she's like, can you at least wait a week? Your mom's gonna be home. And we find out that mom isn't with Phil, right? Phil may not get a contract with some minor league baseball nonsense and is gonna come back home early. And so that kind of threw her for a loop. So now that's like, oh crap, that's way too soon, because oh no, that's another, like because they intended for James, the one who's actually the leader of this trio, the hunter, to overhear so that they can like figure it out, right? Or that he can like either go the other way or something like that. Like it's a little bit, I partially missed some of like the plan when it came to like what James's range of his powers were. Which is fine because, like, again, you're supposed to also be in Bella's shoes, so you don't really know. But yeah, it's I think it was really good because like Bella's acting also kind of threw me for a loop. Like, okay,
the entire like how
just
the entire thing.
Yeah, like in a good way. Like, well, I'm like, all right, girl, get it. No, when she revealed that she like hit Charlie really low with like that exact quote that her mom said before their separation, yikes, ow. At that moment I was like, oh, poor Charlie.
I want you to know, I like I said, I very much well remember the end of this book. That scene has stuck with me since I read it. Yeah. Since I've been every interaction before and since between Bella and Charlie, I always think of that scene. I always think of how either that's coming up or how it has already happened, because it is so, when I read that the first time, it like seared itself into my brain because it was so cruel. Yeah, what she did. And like, obviously, again, reading through this entire section, it's just like it's high adrenaline, high panic, like every sense you could probably have is on max. And it's your, the bells and rings and sirens are all going off of just like danger, danger, danger.
Yeah.
So you have to do
whatever you can.
The worst thing. Yeah, because, and I can't tell why it sucks so much with me. I don't know if it's because like when you love someone, you know exactly how to hurt them in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
But you would never do that because you love them and you're not cruel in that way.
But when it comes to their safety, you'll do anything.
Yeah, exactly. If like you had to come up with something to say to a loved one to get them to get away from you in a moment like this, you would absolutely do the same thing. But it's just, and I think that's what I think really rose my like, oh, this is serious moment.
Yeah.
Is that Bella did this and to her dad, who like we saw had a very amicable relationship leading up to this. In fact, it hurt even more, I think, because he stayed up to wait for Bella.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is so, first of all, uncharacteristic of Charlie. Charlie is
there's a boy involved now.
Yeah. Charlie is big into just letting Bella do her thing, but now that there's a boy involved.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, now when I was younger, I definitely saw reading through the series, I, you know, am living this experience through Bella's eyes. So like I imagined yelling at Charlie or like that emotion of yelling at Charlie. But now as an adult, it definitely is feeling it from Charlie's side, like what it would feel like to be yelled at that way by Charlie. And I feel even more empathetic towards Charlie because of it, even more so than before. But I was like, damn, yeah, she just straight up was just like, I can't, you know, I do like them. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and that's the part that stuck with me. I completely forgot that she starts with like, yeah, I do like Edward. That's the problem. I can't do this anymore. I can't put down any more roots here. I don't want to end up trapped in this stupid, boring town like Mom.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the same dumb mistake she did. I can't stay here another minute. I was just like, for me, in my mind, I was just like, I hate forks, and that's why she's leaving. No, she completely went like full on.
Like, no, she channeled her mom's like energy there.
Also, can we talk about how Renee told Bella the last word she told Charlie before she left? I read that. I was like, Renee, excuse me, how dare you tell your child what?
Do we know what? How old was she when they separated? Do we remember? Were we told this?
Early 20s, I think. They were young.
And how old was she?
Renee met Charlie after high school and for college or something like that. She was traveling, I think, and that's how she met Charlie. And then she got pregnant shortly thereafter, and they got married. Moved.
But then, how old was Bella when they separated?
A few, maybe. She was still a baby, I think.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
She had to have been at least before like 6 or 7 years old, right? Because that's when she first came back to Forks for a summer. And that's when she like had previously met Jacob or whatever.
Yeah.
So Renee it was definitely young. Man, dang. Renee, that's cold.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, damn. Because I can't imagine Bella remembers the words. I can't imagine Bella being there in that moment as she's leaving.
Yeah.
You know? So she had to have been told those exact words.
Yeah. Or like something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Because the man was too stunned to speak. Like he was still, she managed to grab her stuff, leave, hop in the truck. Edward was there hiding in the truck waiting for her, and they were off.
Yeah. Honestly, like I commend Charlie for being able to like function after she threw that line at him.
Yeah.
Like he was still like, no, like you can't go. It's nighttime. And it's like, I'll sleep in the truck if I get tired. It's like, no, like wait another week. Renee will be back by then.
Yeah.
And then Charlie kept talking. I'm just like, damn, Charlie, I would have just stopped. I would have been like too shocked to speak. She would have just left.
Yeah, like he was stunned for like a hot second, but like he did try his best. We do find out like Bella is sad that she did that. She doesn't, I don't know if she doesn't regret doing it, but she's sad that she hurt Charlie's feelings because she does like her dad. But Edward gave her some reassurance because of his mind reading powers that like your dad will forgive you, which I'm like, that's good. That's good.
Well, I don't even know if it's mind reading or if it's just him trying to be comforting.
It could be a little bit of both. Let's be real.
Yeah, because like she says it that she wishes more than anything that she could explain anything to him right then.
Yeah.
But she knew she was never going to be able to.
Yeah.
Because she's never going to be able to explain to Charlie.
There's vampires.
The real reason. Yeah, it's like she can never tell Charlie that, it's because my life was in danger because there was a vampire tracking me down and I needed to get away from you.
Yeah.
She can never even say anything along those lines because Charlie would think, oh, the safest place you can be with is me, the chief sheriff of Forks, Washington. You know, like, so yeah, she could just never say anything about this situation. And I never really thought about that, even though she says it, never really thought about like, oh, she can never tell Charlie.
Yeah.
About that.
Because Charlie will just take it into his own hands, which is more dangerous. Because like, Charlie doesn't come off as like incredibly machismo. Like he's a pretty like chill dad. I mean, he's machismo because like that's just the characterization a little bit. But like, I feel like because he's a little bit older, like I could see him not like thinking that like, yeah, my police gun will take care of a vampire.
Well, no, he can't know about vampires.
No, that's what I'm saying. If it came down to him knowing and like the hunters were going after them, he wouldn't stand down. But that's the thing that Bella's scared of, that like her dad is going to protect her and she doesn't want him to, because she knows that he would die against vampires. She's going to die against vampires if she didn't have vampires protecting her. So
yeah. But also very dangerous if Charlie knows, because they'd probably have to kill Charlie.
Yeah.
But let's see, what was I also thought it was really funny when Edward was trying to distract Bella. And it was like, I assumed you were adjusting fairly well to the small town life, especially recently.
I know.
I
was
just
kind of
flattering
funny.
myself that I was making life more interesting for you. Bella was having nothing, but she was like, I wasn't being nice.
Yeah,
I was just being really cruel to my dad.
You're not helping. It was a good attempt. You got a B for effort, Edward.
Yeah. I know.
Not an A, not quite an A. Because it's a very serious situation, but also, you know what? Let's make it a little lighthearted. We're in the clunky truck right now. We end up getting to the house. We see that Laurent, the fake leader of that group, was there chilling, and Laurent's like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I'm not gonna mess with y'all, but I'm not gonna go up against James because James is pretty hardcore. So I'll just meet up with those other dudes you were talking about up north. Peace." And then they like switch. There's like a plan. We got like Edward, Emmett, and Carlisle going after the hunter James. We had Esme and Rosalie keeping track of the other vampire lady, Victoria, because apparently she had also split up to try and help look for Bella. And then Alice and Jasper hop into a tinted Mercedes and drive twice the speed limit all the way down to Phoenix. I don't even know how long that trip is driving. Hold on, I'm curious.
They said 3 days.
Was it 3 days?
3 days made into one. It was a line.
Jeez.
I didn't have time to look it up.
Here, Forks to Phoenix, Arizona. Let me put in driving. Oh, it says driving is 24 hours.
Yeah, that's about.
So then they made
3 days.
Yeah, so 24 hours straight. But if you were to stop, that makes sense. So they literally just went all night.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to sleep. Because Alice was driving, Jasper was driving, one of them was driving.
I think Jasper must have been driving because Bella.
Was slept against Alice.
Yeah. What was I going to say? We learn how you can kill a vampire in this chapter also. That you have to. The only way to be sure to kill them is you have to tear them to shreds and then burn the pieces.
Yep.
So that is the established lore of how to murder a vampire in this universe.
In fact, they quite love garlic. I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's true, but that's very hilarious that like, yeah, steaks, no. Garlic, holy water, nah, you gotta literally tear them to pieces and burn them.
Yeah. You have to get rid of every single piece. Otherwise, I don't know, they reform.
They regen. Yeah, I mean, there's interesting other vampire lore where, you know, they turn into bats. They can also turn into mist. And this mist makes its way. Well, this is also with coffin lore, but we know that coffin lore isn't true in Twilight. But they end up going back to their coffin, healing up in their coffin, and coming back, or like at least like reestablishing themselves after regenerating. I think the amount of damage they take, and this is also partially like D&D nonsense, but you know, I imagine if you're torn to itty bitty pieces, you need a long time to get your physical body back together.
Let's see. Also, I love that every single person was just like, stop worrying about us.
Yeah.
We, the vampires, will be fine. You just worry about yourself.
Yeah.
And once again, Bella, don't you dare waste your time worrying about me. Your only concern is keeping yourself safe, and please, please, trying not to be reckless. Again, I think it's very funny that Edward knows Bella and is like, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not put yourself in danger. I am begging you, imploring you not to do so. Also, my next favorite line is, Emmett had my door open before the truck stopped. He pulled me out of my seat, tucked me like a football into his vast chest, and ran me through the door. I had to go back and read that to make sure I read that correctly, because that's a hilarious, first of all, visual.
Yeah.
Second of all, what a wonderful way to phrase that.
Yeah. More sports.
More sports?
Even though she's not good at sports.
No. Edward apparently great, or Emmett great though.
Yeah. So we get into chapter, so 19 and 20 were really short because 20, we're mostly just chilling in a hotel in Phoenix for a long time. It's very funny because like, I think one of the things that made me giggle a little bit was Alice like, oh, I got you food because Edward reminded me too that you need to eat more regularly. And she like, Bella makes it like, yeah, I got fed like at pretty regular intervals. It was kind of reminded me of like a feeding schedule for a pet. I was like, oh no, not like this, Bella. Because she's not going to eat. She's got her anxieties through the roof. She's worried about Edward. Again, not herself. She's worried about the rest of the vampires. Not herself. She's worried about Charlie and her mom. Not herself. But yeah, we're there for a long time. But I think the biggest thing that happens in this chapter, Alice has a vision. And she's like, something's changed. And it boils down to, she sees a weird dark room, but then there's like a line and mirrors. The vision didn't really make sense to me until Bella explains, like, yeah, it's a ballet room. I'm like, oh, cool. All right, now that makes so much more sense to me. I can see the bar and stuff now. Vampires, cryptic, huh?
Well, I mean, apparently it was a great description of Bella can.
Yeah, if Bella could do it. Yeah. And then I think Alice was also drawing it later, so it probably helped. And then they also, I think at this point they remember like, oh yeah, mom's coming home early. I should probably let her know not to come home or to at least talk to me. But this is an era where there's no cell phones, so she has to leave a message on the landline. Or like there is cell phones, because we do have cell phones. But it's like not everybody has cell phones, because I believe all the vampires have burners.
Yeah, this is 2005. So
yeah, we get some, but not all.
It's some, not common.
Yeah.
Wow, 2005. What would be out in 2005?
But it was like a little. I feel like maybe one of those like little Nokia. Like not. It's definitely not a flip phone. Flip phones weren't really a thing until like.
Yeah. It was
it wasn't. Flip phone would be. Yeah, I had one in 2006.
Yeah, because it's a tiny silver cell phone. I have to assume that it's probably in my mind it's a flip phone.
Yeah, in my mind it's a flip phone too.
It's like, because I had a small little Nokia one in 2006, 7 maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
it's either
a
flip phone or the iconic Nokia that everyone loves playing Snake on. You know what I'm talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, I do. I do want to say one thing about the previous chapter.
Oh, sure.
About Rosalie.
Oh yeah.
Because Rosalie obviously has been just unhappy about the Bella situation since the beginning, because Bella very much, Edward was obviously wanted to eat Bella, and everyone knew that he wanted to eat Bella, and he kept putting himself in the situation where he could eat Bella. And Rosalie was upset because she was just like, well, let's just get rid of the damn problem so we don't have to worry about this anymore. Because Rosalie, because they just started in Forks.
Yeah.
They've only been here a couple of years, if not maybe a little more. So they've just moved, they just restarted. So imagine that, like, Rosalie, Emmett, and the rest of them already past college age. Maybe they lived together in the previous iteration of their life, and were separate from the family, and they finally came back, and now they're just like, all right, let's start over again. Let's become college freshmen and start all over again.
Yeah.
And Rosalie is like, we're not doing this again. Not so soon. And so, and I have to bring it up because when I first read this, I'm like, oh, Rosalie's the worst character. Because she is so, like, anti everything Bella, which I think is the point. Yeah. However, Rosalie is the most understandable character. She is the one that is reacting the most reasonably to all of this.
Yep.
In fact, I would argue that everyone else is reacting unnormally to the situation. Rosalie is just like, all Bella has done is put us in danger.
Yeah.
That's all she has done. And here she is putting us in more danger. Like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to not want to do this and not, be upset about the situation?
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, Rosalie, honey.
We love Edward.
I know. It's just like big middle child energy
for Rosalie.
With you.
Yeah.
Because, like, everyone's just like, no, but let's think about Edward. Honestly, the most unrealistic part about this is that Edward is technically the older sibling out of all of them.
I want my girlfriend and I want her all the time.
It's like, no one would ever treat the older child as good as they treat Edward.
No.
He might as well be the youngest.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the one thing I do want to mention, because it's the one time we get to speak about Rosalie in this
for sure.
chapter.
Yeah. So we have Alice's. Well, we also learn the mechanics of how a vampire turns in this one, because, like, Bella pushes Alice to share, and she's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you my story, but I'll tell you the mechanics of what happened. And essentially, like, they're bit, there's a poison, and it just courses through their body constantly, like, just changing their body. But apparently it's like the most visceral and worst thing that a human can experience before the end of their human life into their vampire life. So we learned that.
Yeah, because it's a poison that courses through your entire body, turning you into an undead vampire.
Yep.
Until your heart stops. Because the venom doesn't stop until it has gone through your entire body, and your heart is the last thing that stops. So, and she mentions it can take several days also, which is why it's an excruciating process.
Yeah.
And also, I thought it was very funny. I always think Alice and Edward's interactions are very funny, because there are two people who can, like, just know each other's next moves.
Yeah.
At all points in time. So they're very much just even, with Edward with a little bit of a leg up on the situation.
Yeah, because this is more like right now, and hers is like, maybe.
Yeah, because, like, Edward's always going to know what the future holds, because Alice always knows.
Yeah.
So he could just change it then, and then be, ahead of Alice by one move always.
Yeah.
So it's always funny with them having conversations, because a lot of it is very silent, in the way of, like, how Edward was just like, and don't tell Bella your opinions, because Alice's opinions obviously fall somewhere in line with turning a vampire, someone into a vampire, based off of context clues here.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, because she's just like, he's going to be very angry.
Yeah, he's gonna be mad at me. I'm gonna not, but I'll give you some information that doesn't like totally incriminate me.
Yeah.
Um,
but yeah, she also doesn't know what turning entails because she's never done it herself.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember any of her human life. So
yeah.
it's not like she would remember what happened when she was turned either.
Yeah.
Which again, extremely tragic. What a extremely depressing line if you know Alice's history.
Yeah.
But it also, Master Manipulator Bella, let me tell you, the one thing that annoys me the most about Bella is the fact that she says she's not a liar and that she's not a manipulator. Because those are her two main characteristics.
Yep.
Is that she's very good at lying and she's very good at manipulating the people around her.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think she only gets better because she has to exist in the world where Alice can read the future. So she has to make decisions based off of that.
Yep.
And I'm just like, gosh.
Yep.
Garsh.
Speaking of powers, we do also get a feel for what Jasper can do because Bella can kind of feel the vibes when he's like, because he tries to like calm her down when she like is freaking out about like, oh my God, does that mean they're like, because we learned that like they're actively hunting James, like team Edward, Carlisle and Emmett are actively looking for James in order to get rid of him. And then Esme and Rosalie are on Victoria's tail / Phil Watch. Charlie Watch. Sorry, Charlie Watch. Yes. Wrong dad, boyfriend. I don't know. So she's like freaking out. And then Jasper's like, you got to stop worrying about us. And she's like, oh, I could kind of feel the vibes. I'm literally just going to call Jasper's because it's not like he's fully manipulating it, right? He is, but like not in a, like she can resist it and she can kind of feel it. I think for like, I think because she expects it, she was able to anticipate it, but.
It's because she knows what's happening, so she's able to
be aware of it.
Act before it like fully takes hold. Because you know, you can get your emotions can be affected a certain way, but you can still make decisions despite that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what she does. She just things in spite of what Jasper wants her to do.
Yeah.
But Jasper is 100% knows the vibes and will then affect the vibes in the room because of that.
Yeah, so I'm glad we got a little bit of that. If this was just also a way to showcase like not Edward's power set and everyone else's, I'm down with that. Which are probably like, because if Edward had the choice, he would probably have been on team get her the Phoenix instead of gonna hunt her. But I hunt James. But I guess also he wants to be rid of the problem at its source. So I don't know. That's a little bit double-edged there.
Well, I mean, at the end, they made the choice, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
In Bella's plan of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But also because Edward, I think it's one of those things that it's just you can't get that out of your mind. What he heard in James's mind.
Yeah.
And what Alice saw. It's like you can never get that image out of your mind. And so when you know so surely that your loved one is always going to be in danger, she will never not be in danger until that person is gone.
Yeah.
I think that's what made the decision for Edward. And we even saw early in that chapter when they left, when Edward kissed her goodbye, that after he kissed her, his eyes became dead and cold, essentially.
Yeah. Like he turned on the realness, the real vampireness.
He turned off the humanity and turned on
the vampire.
The killer.
Yeah.
Which I thought I completely messed up the first time I read through it. I was just like, oh damn. And so so that's probably why he was off, and probably because of that he's the better of the hunting party.
He's also the most experienced, I guess, in terms of like aside from Esme, he's the oldest. So
Carlisle, and you can hear
right. Carlisle it's like Carlisle, Esme, Edward, right? Oh no, it's Carlisle, Edward, Esme. Yeah.
And then Rosalie. And so, and also Edward can read his mind.
Yeah. So that's Edward just an advantage.
Yeah, Edward is a tracker himself in that way.
Yeah.
Although as we could see, as Laurent told us, James is very smart. He is brilliant. He is a very strong also, and will never attack you from the front.
Yeah.
He will always find a different way to come at it, as we saw.
As we see in chapter 21.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. While reading this, okay, two more things. One thing, when they were, she asked, I'm sorry, I find this to be so unhinged that this happened in this book. When they're talking about where the airport is, Bella is just like, oh, just keep
I-10.
Driving on the I-10. They wrote I-10, I-T-E-N. I-10. Who writes a highway number with the number spelled out? Excuse me? I have never in my life been more disrespected by seeing a freeway written as I-T-E-N instead of I-10. As someone who lives next to I-10, I could not believe my eyes when I saw it spelled out I-T-E-N. The audacity of the editor to let that one go through. I could not. I wrote that down. I highlighted it, bolded it, italicized it, underscored it, and made it larger than every other text in my notes because I was extremely upset by that. I just viscerally, like my entire body could not stand that.
I thought like maybe mine is updated stuff on the Kindle. I must have just sped read it because I'm like, oh yeah, I-10. Holy crap, who does that? Who does that? I'm offended too. What the hell?
I could not believe I saw I-10 because my eyes couldn't like ascertain quickly what that said. Because I was just like, Itten? What the hell is Itten?
Like, I knew what the Skyport was. Like, I knew that's what they're called, the airport. So, like, I'm like, okay, cool. So, like, that's why I was like, oh, they're going it's some highway, whatever.
Yeah, God. No, the I-T-E-N, I-10. I can't believe that got through editing. I don't know what unhinged society we lived in 2004, 2005, but it's not one I wanted to live in if that's how you spelled I-10. And anyways, aside from my aghastness at that, prior to two things I have to do my service for the Bellas fans. When Alice came at Bella with open arms and then asked, may I, in reference to raising her, Bella was just like, you're the first one to ask permission. I smiled wryly. I was just like, Bella stands rise. And then shortly thereafter, like a couple of sentences later, it was like, somehow during the long night, my head ended up against her granite neck. My closeness didn't seem to bother her at all, and the cool, hard skin was oddly comforting to me. And I was like, Bella stands rejoice.
Can I just say, awesome. Like, after I read that, I'm like, I ship it.
I shipped it. I always was just like, I like Alice more than I like Edward.
No, yeah,
forever
no,
and I always like Alice more than I like Edward.
Yeah. So when I read that too, I was just like, I went, first of all, the like sweeping off her feet part, I'm like, okay. Right. and then like the whole falling asleep, like that is like that whole kind of like road trip with a crush, like that some people fantasize about just falling asleep on them and them not minding. But I'm like, God dang, why is it Edward? Screw Team Jacob, screw Team Edward. It's Team Alice here. Team Alice in the house.
Those shirts and merchandise do exist. Team Alice was a huge ship also.
Yep. Team Alice. We're Team Alice. This house is Team Alice.
This is a Team Alice household. Thank you very much. Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
Oh my god. So the last chapter of this group, we finally get updates from the team Hunt. We have Team Hunt, which is like Edward, Carlisle, Emmett. Team Phoenix, which is Bella, Jasper, and Alice. And then we have Team Team Charlie, which is Esme and Rosalie, right? They're our Team Forks. So we finally get an update from the little Nokia. We get an update from them first, and it was Carlisle on the phone into Edward talking to Bella, being like, we find out that they couldn't find him. So that's like,
well, they they were tracking him, but eventually James smartened up to it and eluded them.
Yeah. So
was able to escape them.
Yeah. So they couldn't do the job. And they're like, we're still going to keep track. We're going to try and find him the best we can. But they are getting on a flight to Phoenix and heading over like as soon as they can. Because it would be faster for them to do it that way instead of driving, I believe.
They originally were returning to Forks to catch the trail again, I believe was what they were going to do first. It wasn't until the next bit of information happened that
oh, right. The next bit of information being Alice telling them, oh, yeah, vision changed. And they're like, oh, F.
Yeah. And then when Alice saw Renee's house.
Yes.
That is when
changed.
Everything changed. When they were like,
everything changed when Alice's vision came. We also find out that Charlie's okay. Charlie's chill. Esme's not gonna leave. Esme's got and they never came to the house. At least Victoria didn't come there. Yeah, when Charlie was there. Like they came through once, but they didn't find anything. But Esme has been hawk-eyed on Charlie. So that updates there are okay. Bella had left a voicemail at her mom's phone to be like, please call me as soon as you get this. Like, this is the first thing you need to do. She prays that her mom checks her messages because we also know that Bella typically took care of things around the house. So she's like, Mom better be checking these messages, but I got to leave a message because that's the only way I can get in touch with her. That isn't snail mail.
Yup.
So she leaves a message being like, call me. It's the first thing you do. Another phone call comes through and it started off as Mom, I believe, right? It kind of got a little confusing for me, but then there was something more urgent and someone very commanding on the other end of the line. And it ends up being, I think essentially it's a hostage situation, right? James has actually made it to Bella's mom's home and is like, essentially is like, I have your mom, you're going to come here without any of your vampire buddies, and no one will get hurt. And Bella makes a call to answer as he commands so that her mom doesn't get hurt. And then she's like, freak, I need to figure out a way how to trick two vampires into letting me out so I can get out of here and get to the house by myself. And she does this with like, I think she's like, the letters for Edward, and then I don't actually know what she's going to do. I think that we're going to find that out in the next chapter of what she actually does to get out of there. But she's like, can you give this letter to Edward? And then it's like, it's not like a last will and testament, but it's kind of like, please forgive me for what I'm about to do, but I have to do it because I love my mom. That's kind of like should we read it? Should we read the actual letter?
The letter? Sure. I was going to say that she told Alice to give the letter to her mom.
Oh, to her mom. Right.
Yeah. And she's writing it to Edward.
Yeah, she's writing because I guess she assumes Edward's going to yoink it or something, but
I think she's assuming that at some point they're going to read they're either going to read a mind or they're going to see a future about this letter.
Yeah. It says, I love you. I am so sorry. He has my mom and I have to try. I know it may not work. I am very, very sorry. Don't be angry with Alice and Jasper. If I get away from them, it will be a miracle. Tell them thank you for me. Alice, especially, please. And please don't come after him. That's what he wants, I think. I can't bear it if anyone has to be hurt because of me, especially you. Please, this is the only thing I can ask you for now, for me. I love you. Forgive me, Bella. I'm like, all right, go girl. It's also incredibly scary and terrifying. But yeah, that's if you love your mom's your best friend.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like this in the Kindle, but does it change fonts?
It changes fonts.
On the Kindle?
It changes fonts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it is a weird font that they chose to write it in. It's a little. I'm not going to say illegible, but it is a little hard to read.
Oh, that's weird. Because mine goes from, I don't know if you can tell on here. Yeah, it goes from a serif to a sans serif. That's all it does.
No.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, let's see if it'll autofocus. Hold on, I just need to take off the thing.
The filter. PB cast invisibility.
Cast invisibility.
Oh, that is a weird. Wow, that's so different. Let's see if we can get it. Let me turn off my light here so that I can also don't get it clear. Yeah, it's trying to attempt to be a handwriting, but here is like the font.
Yeah, yours looks normal.
Yeah. Mine literally goes, because I'm reading it in a serif font because that's easier to read, and it goes into a sans serif font for the letter.
Yeah, no, it becomes like this like handwriting thing. It's not super hard to read, but but if you don't know cursive, it becomes a little more difficult to read because it's not completely cursive, but some of like the weird smaller letters are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so James, man, I need to be very careful how I describe this. James calls Bella, and we hear the Bella, I believe is what the phone call is. And that's where Bella, or I guess it's just like Bella, and Alice, gives the phone over to Bella.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming, then we get Bella. Maybe they said something else to
yeah,
Alice.
He might have like forced her to say it and then took the phone or something, or like was right there as she took the phone and he yoinked it from her.
Yeah. And then it turned into James.
Yes.
After that one. Yeah, Bella. And then calm down, Mom. Just give me a second. And I'll explain everything. And then after the pause, it's just like, Mom. And then it's like, be careful what you say after this point.
Yep.
Very well played from James's part.
Yep.
TBH. I like reading a competent
bad guy
enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a competent villain. And I also like the written in hubris in the character. Yeah. Because when he's described, or how Edward describes James after they see him for the first time, or he reads the mind for the first time, is that he says, it's partially your fault. If you didn't smell so appallingly luscious, he might not have bothered. But when I defended you, well, that made it a lot worse.
Yeah.
He's not used to being thwarted, no matter how insignificant the object. He thinks of himself as a hunter and nothing else. His existence is consumed with tracking and challenges all that he asks of life. Suddenly, we've presented him with a beautiful challenge, a large clan of strong fighters, all bent on protecting the once vulnerable element. You wouldn't believe how euphoric he is now. It's his favorite hobby, and we must make it the most exciting game ever. I typed this all out while I was not looking, because I read this about an hour and a half before the show started, so I had to type very quickly, and I didn't go back to read any of my my mistakes. By the end of this one, I did not even care where my fingers were while I was typing. So it's a miracle I can read this at all, what I typed out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so James sees this as a giant challenge, because all he wants to do is catch his prey.
Hunt.
Yeah.
He wants to play a game.
He is a hunter, and that is his entire purpose in life. And he's 300, I believe, is what Lawrence said.
Oh yeah.
So,
I don't remember that. I just remember he's a really good hunter. I'm not gonna mess with that piece.
Oh, he's not 300. It's just you can't bring him down. I've never seen anything like him in my 300 years.
Oh,
he's absolutely
Lawrence,
lethal. 300
years.
Yeah, Lawrence, 300 years. James is just the most impressive things he's seen in 300 years.
Yeah.
And so James's tracking is like Alice's mind reading and Edward's mind reading. It is his gift, his special gift.
Keen senses, good instincts, endurance, probably, stuff like that.
Yeah. In James's previous life, when he was a human, he was a hunter. So that is why this is transferred over to his vampiric life. Yeah. He's a very good hunter, and now he's a very good hunter.
Very good hunter. Underline.
Underline.
Yeah.
So that is why this has made a very scary situation very quickly.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I'm kind of impressed and kind of of like a literary way. I'm impressed that Stephenie Meyer was so confident that her first villain is a very competent, very dangerous villain.
Yeah.
With seemingly very few weaknesses. Right. Yeah. And that the protagonists are very fragile human is the prey here.
Yeah.
So I'm very almost impressed that Stephenie Meyer decided to go here in her first book, you know?
Yeah. Like I'm wondering what the rest of it entails, but I know like there's gonna be book 2 is probably I don't even know if Jacob shows up anymore because I feel like we're laser focusing on this thing right now. So like I know we got introduced to Jacob book 1, but I guess the chunk of Jacob stuff is book 2, unless somehow that Billy comes over here and it's like, I freaking told you so, Bella. Which I would not be surprised. But yeah, so that is kind of like the summary. Any other closing thoughts, or should we get into L's and W's of the week?
What are my closing thoughts about the last chapter? I think that overall, the first time I read through this, I thought, like I said, it's very memorable. To me, the ending of this book is very memorable. Not all the endings of the books are memorable to me. In fact, New Moon and Eclipse really just mesh into one another for me. Because one of the endings is just not that I have no idea what happens. I just know the beginning of the other book.
Well, you'll remember soon.
Yeah. But the end of Twilight was extremely memorable to me because I think it was very well written, which is why I'm very curious about reading it again and why I'm reading it so carefully. Because I think it was written very well for what it was, of just being this anxiety, adrenaline, fear-filled ending. I read this all in one go. Like these entire last 2 chapters, or these last 2 reading sessions that we're doing, read them all in one go.
Nice, yeah.
Because I mean, it was too. Yeah, it was like
action-packed.
That's a cliffhanger. Yeah. And like
you left with a really good cliffhanger, and I kind of like hate that for me specifically because you already know. But like, yeah, this is sort of the thing that when I was like in my peak reading prime in like grade school and high school, like this is the part where I would have read all the way through to the end.
Yes, 100%.
I can pace it because I have some discipline at least.
I was hard pressed because it's short.
It was very short.
I gave us what is that, like less than 60 pages to read?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't have the semblance of pages because of Kindle, but yeah, no, it was
true.
I was very surprised though, and I'm like, oh, this is already like I read to chapter 20, and I was like, this is short, and I'm like, oh, we're going to 21, and then I read 21, I'm like, this is short.
I had the option because the next reading is also about 60 pages.
Yeah, but it's the last chunk though.
Yeah. I was given the choice between, because I've given this over 100 pages before.
Yeah.
You have. I had the choice between, do I put this all in one? Do we just finish the book here?
That's gonna be a long episode.
Or do I chunk this up in 2? And I was like, if I find a good stopping point in the middle that'll give us enough for a second episode, I will do so.
And you did.
Otherwise, I won't. And I did. It
was very good.
I flipped to the chapter and I was like, oh, this is perfect.
This is like
best place to stop.
Yeah, this is where a TV show would cut, you know?
Yeah. It's like this is when Bella is reading the letter and as a narrator.
Yeah.
And we're watching the scene as they're going to the airport
Yeah.
And Bella's like looking over her shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and Alice is like letting them opening the door for her as she walks in.
Yeah.
Like that's the narrator we're getting, and we'll get like a scene of what's happening. Oh, with Edward getting on his plane to get.
It's like a parallel getting to the airport, getting on the plane, but then it's like trains in the night, the mist, and then it cuts, and they're like, how does Bella get out of like Alice and Jet? Like, find out next week on Twilight.
Yeah. But yeah, so I want to honestly commend the writing here, because I think you'll see a little bit more what I'm talking about in the next reading session.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said earlier, I was kind of confused when I read this that chapter too. Mostly because like it's almost you're coming off of this adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Because like you've been calm now. We've been in this hotel room for 3 very short chapters.
Yeah.
With 2 statues, which I think is so funny. Is
Yeah.
that like now that I'm reading this a second time, vampires are really funny.
Yeah.
Because they're just sitting there. Because I can't imagine, because it must be so boring, but they must be so used to being bored.
Yeah.
They're just like watching TV.
And not watching TV, and also just staring at the wall.
Just kind of dissociating, I think, is what they're doing. But like still being aware that their things.
Yeah.
But and then like, suddenly when that phone call happens, like suddenly everything goes. I mean,
it's
even
back
before
up again.
Yeah, because they kind of subvert your expectations too, because you think the dangerous thing in the chapter is going to be, oh, they're at, Renee's house. Like, oh no. But it's okay because here comes Edward.
Yeah.
It'll be okay because here comes the cavalry. But then the phone call comes and you're like, oh, thank God, Renee's going to get the call. She's not going to go home. Everything's going to be okay. And then suddenly...
It's already happened. The worst has happened.
Oh, yeah, it's like, hello, Bella. And you're like, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
And then everything just goes to hell.
Yeah, I think part of why I didn't highlight as much... Well, it's like a lot of just like things happening. Like we have a couple of moments where like that we talked about, right? And we kind of just like discussed it further, but I think I didn't highlight as much or take notes because like it's suspenseful, it's well written. I would honestly say compared to the rest of the earlier book, but so like this is actually like the most interesting part. Like, yeah, setting up the relationships is very important so that we can get to this point of like so then it pays off. So I think this is definitely like the best reading we've done so far in terms of piquing my interest. Like again, if this was younger me that read regularly and I was reading this of my own volition, I would have blasted through the rest of the book. I would have stayed up like extra late to finish it. Like if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read before bed, like 11 o'clock at night, read a couple of chapters, then a couple of chapters becomes the rest of the book, and you're like, oh crap, it's like 2 a.m. and you gotta get to bed because your bus is at 6 a.m. God, high school.
God, high school. Yeah. I'm so lucky. So I did ride the bus when I was in my entire life. I rode the bus. So I had bus friends. And bus friends are very different than the friends you have in school.
For sure.
And so my bus friends, one of my bus friends, also a prolific reader, read a ton, read more than I did. Anytime I saw her, she had a book in her hand. In fact, that's why I became her friend, because she didn't talk to anyone. She was always reading. And I'm like, you are going to be my friend. And when I want someone to be my friend, I'm pretty stubborn about it. So I very much wormed my way into becoming her friend. And it was fine. She was, we were good friends.
We talked about books,
For that's the thing. And we talked about books, but because she was a prolific reader, she's a fast reader.
Yeah.
So whenever a book would
you get
come
to borrow
out,
the books.
Well, because we would both get the books the day they came out. And then we would read the whole book and then we would be able to discuss it. And no one else in my life would read the whole book in one sitting or like in one day, the day they picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
They would always be like, I'll read
chapter 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I finished the book in like less than half a day. I was so into it.
Remember those days?
Yeah, honestly. And and so I would always be able to discuss the book with her. And Twilight was one of those books that we both read. And so when Breaking Dawn came out, we were both like very much like on the bus, nonstop talking about it. And then when the movie came out, because slightly different than the book, like, most adaptations are, I was like, oh, this is such a good. We talked
Y'all
about it even
opinions.
We had opinions. We talked so much about it. But that's a little bit what this reminds me of. Except we both didn't know what was happening until we read it.
For sure. Yeah.
But on to go ahead.
No, that's fine. We can go. Yeah, on to W's and L's of the week or of the reading. My W is Alice.
Okay.
Like my straightforward W is Alice. Like I really like Alice. Here. I think I'll give like a Mimi W to Laurent.
Oh yeah.
For being like, good luck, homies, peace. You're up for a challenge. Like I think he's like, I don't like giving like the fact that he knows what they're going up against and chooses not to be part of it. He's like, no, too above my pay grade. You guys have fun though. Tells us a lot about that. So that was like really good information. But I also just like his attitude. He's like, I'm not going to yuck your yum here, but I'm also not going to go after this homie that I've been hanging on to. So like,
yup.
So those are my like 2 W's. Alice mostly like Alice is like is a long lasting W. Laurent is like a more immediate W.
Yeah.
I don't know who my L is though.
Ooh.
I don't know. Come back to me again for that L.
My VIP is going to be Alice a lot in the future, so we're not going to go with Alice to start with. My VIP for the week, my W, is going to be. I wish I would have written it in my notes if I had time. But my meme W is going to be that painting on the wall that Bella kept tracing because she was so bored in the hotel room.
Oh, yep. Way to keep a girl occupied.
Yeah. And my real VIP is Emmett. I loved Emmett in the first, like him just being immediately ride or die is such a green flag for me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, hell yeah, Emmett, go off. He was immediately like, well, I guess we have to kill him. And he's like,
okay.
Yep, sounds good to me. Let's do it. And my worst of the week.
Oh, here I have mine. I have my
Go for it.
My actual L, my like more serious L's probably like it's weird because I want to give it to Rosalie because she's not being a team player, but I also get it. But my other L is Esme's pants for being too big and then having to be rolled up and cuffed for Bella.
Yup, I love that. Let's see. My worst of the week is going to be to Phil for being a terrible baseball player. Oh, yeah. And
couldn't you be better at baseball so you didn't have to come home and put yourself in danger?
The minor leagues. How good do you have to be, Phil? And then my actual L of the week, my worst of the week, is fucking I-TEN. That is officially the worst of the week.
That's the worst of forever.
Cannot believe that that's in the book. I need to have a conversation with everyone involved with editing this book and the reasoning as to why they chose this.
Who can we blame?
Who's the blame?
Who's the blame? Ready? Twilight book editor. Okay, well, the publisher is Little Brown and Company. Not the cover. We can't blame. Wow, the original title of this book is called Forks.
Yeah.
Today I learned. I guess that we don't have an editor name. It must just be like some. You know what? Because it wasn't like an editor person. It's like some editor at the company. You know.
I would like to blame. The first paperback edition was September 2006. I would like to blame Little Brown and Company for this and the Hatchet Book Group of USA.
Yeah.
For this, I'm extremely insulted.
You don't have to follow number rules to the T. You are welcome to add actual numbers for proper nouns when you're writing.
Exactly. It's a proper noun. It's I-10, whatever direction you're going.
Even if it's not a proper noun, it's an exception because it's more understood that way. It's iconography.
It's on every sign. Imagine if road signs were I and then the word spelled out.
I couldn't. There would be so many more like accidents from reading signs.
It's like, what does that say? Boom.
No,
like,
God.
Come on, bro. Oh my God. That's the actual worst of the week.
Yeah.
I can't believe. I would like to give a sympathy plus 10 points to Charlie for having a terrible day.
Yep.
A
Hugs
no
for Charlie.
Good, awful day. Hugs for Charlie.
That's
no food. It. No food mentioned.
No food mentioned this one. But we got a lot of cars. Oh no, another car. Because we already knew about the other cars. We learned about the tinted Mercedes. I love he's like, the car was like, you're going to need the tinted one going south. I'm like, okay. Because they were speeding.
No, because of the sun.
Yeah, that's true. That's right, Lamel. That's why I took it into like a safety thing, but I realized it's the sun. Yeah. I guess they made the joke like, what are you going to do down there? Stay inside? So that's it for the week.
Yeah.
You can join us on the Knilly Online Discord to discuss the episode or ask questions after the show. If you're on my Twitch live right now, !Discord in chat, so you can get the link. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find it in the description. The recording of past episodes can be found on the YouTube channel right here. If you're watching it in the future from now or in the past when we recorded it, you can search for us as Knilly and PB Podcast. New episodes go up the Friday after recording. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. We'll be coming to other podcasting platforms fairly soon. And be on the lookout. We have one more set of chapters and a watch party. So if you join the Discord, you'll get news on when that's happening. PB, any last words?
If you're following along with us, we are about to start New Moon soon. So if you haven't picked it up yet, make sure to get access to New Moon so you can keep following along with us. And also don't forget to leave comments on the podcast over on the YouTube channel, because engagement equals more eyes on the content. So even if it's just to say, hey, or, oh man, that's so cool. I-10 spelled out is horrifying.
Yeah.
If you're over on the YouTube, make sure to write that in the comments. I-10, horrifying.
Horrifying.
Give me your opinions.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Or share your love for Team Alice.
Yeah. Team Alice for the win.
All right. Thank you all so much for hanging out and listening. We'll see you on the internet. Bye.